The other day I covered Ron Paul as we have throughout the campaign, and I've said some positive things about him, some negative things. The new revelations about the newsletters, I thought, got it to a point where I just couldn't support a guy who put out these newsletters that were so hateful and seemed intentionally hateful to arouse people's angers and hatred. Whether he wrote it or didn't write it, it went under his name for a long time with a tremendous amount of racist, bigoted material, etc. Now, that does not mean that because of that, you then say everything Ron Paul did is wrong. In fact, Ron Paul still is much better on some issues than any candidate, including the Democrats. And one of those is civil liberties. Well, he introduced a resolution in the House on Wednesday that is fantastic. It would repeal Section 1021 of the National Defense Authorization Act, which is the most hideous part of that act, although there are other parts that are definitely objectionable. This is the part that might apply indefinite detentions to United States citizens, and at least someone's outraged by it. Here's Ron Paul giving a speech on it.
Sadly, too many of my colleagues are too willing to undermine our Constitution to support such outrageous legislation. One senator even said about American citizens being picked up under this section of the NDAA, quote, "When they say, I want a lawyer, you tell them, shut up. You don't get a lawyer," close quote. Is this acceptable in someone who has taken an oath to uphold the Constitution?
He's referring to Lindsey Graham there, who bragged about, like, these guys are terrorists. Well, then obviously we're not going to give them trials. I don't want to give them no Miranda warnings. I don't think they have rights. But we don't know if they're terrorists. That's why you give them a trial, especially if they're U.S. citizens. Well, then you could go around saying, I don't like that guy. I'm going to call him a terrorist. Ha ha, you don't get a trial, terrorist. But how do you know he's a terrorist? Ron Paul's 100% right about this. He continues.
Precisely the kind of egregious distortion of justice that Americans have always ridiculed in so many dictatorships overseas.
Again, I'm sure that makes Republicans really angry, and I guess all the Democrats who voted for it, which was a tremendous number of Democrats, and President Obama who signed it into law, angry. Like, how could you say that we would be doing indefinite detentions? Well, that's the law you just passed into effect. So he would say it because it's true. So listen, no matter what you might disagree with him on, and there are plenty of things I do, as I've explained over and over again, he is definitely better on this issue than any of the presidential candidates, including President Obama, maybe especially President Obama, because he's the one who signed it into law. Credit where credit is due. Nicely done on this, Ron Paul.